हेलो गाइस, वेलकम बैक टू लिटरेचर ट्यूटोरियल बाय अनिशा मंगला। आज की मेरी जो वीडियो है वो मैंने इन सब टेक्स्ट जो ऑक्सफोर्ड, रूटलेज, टेरी और हबीब की जो बुक्स हैं इनको रेफर करके जो मेन हाइलाइट्स हैं आई हैव रीड बिटवीन द लाइन्स और मुझे जो इम्पोर्टेंट लगा वो मैंने हाईलाइट किया। सो आई हैव रेड बिटवीन द लाइन्स एंड हाईलाइटेड few things. So I think it will be important and informative for you. So if you like it, kindly comment so that I can post such more videos for you, which is very important for the examination point of view, especially for the NET exam. Mary Wollstonecraft, A Vindicate on the Right of Women, which is written in 1792, is a landmark treatise that paved the way for many women after her to not only publish their work but also to engage in overall critical discourse surrounding the issue of women in literature. So आपको यहाँ पर ये चीज इम्पोर्टेंटली जाननी है कि मैरी वॉल्सटोनक्राफ्ट की जो बुक थी अ विंडिकेशन ऑन द राइट ऑफ वुमेन, वो कब लिखी गई और इससे क्या प्रभाव पड़ा। Eros and Thanatos means love and death, respectively in Greek. In Beyond the Pleasure Principle, 1920, Sigmund Freud employed the idea of eros and the death instinct, a psychological concept. Eros, the libidinal, sexual or life instinct, aim to form living substances into ever greater unities. जहाँ पर थानाटॉस की बात है, it leads the living creature to death and manifests itself as a destructive or aggressive impulsive. रोमियो एंड जूलियट में क्या ड्रामाटाइज किया गया था? द रोमांटिक लव एंड ट्रेजिक डेथ ऑफ द टू यंग लवर। सो इस पर्टिकुलर स्लाइड में मैंने इरोस और थानाटॉस जो हमें सिगमंड फ्रॉइड ने दिया है उसके बारे में मैंने डिटेल बताई है। Ecofeminist thinker draw on the concept of gender to analyze the relationship between human and the natural world. The term was coined by the French writer Francoise in her book Les Féminines ou la Mort, 1974. तो इसमें आपको ये जानना जरूरी है कि इकोफेमिनिस्ट थिंकर ये जो वर्ड टर्म था ये किसने हमें दिया था और कहाँ पर दिया था। A group of critics associated with the team of Geneva in 1940s and 50s who employed the method of phenomenology to examine a particular author's body of work in order to apprehend its distinguished consciousness. For these critics of consciousness, the task of the reader is to open him or himself to the author's consciousness, which is not the same as the author's intention. तो इसमें जो है we have been told about the group of critics of the University of Geneva, right? It represents not the author's biographical but instead his imaginative self. The leading figure of the Geneva school was George, for whom the writing and reading of literature were continuing interactive act of consciousness. Others include Jean, whose Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Transparency and Obstruction is an impressive analysis of Rousseau's imagination. फिर मिलर की बात आ गई. He is an American critic, later associated with deconstruction. So ये है हमारे important. Again we have Charles Dickens also, जिसने the world of his novel उसमें represent किया था इस सब के बारे में, राइट? तो ये आपको जानना जरूरी है अगेन अबाउट द Geneva who are associated with it and what works they have written. Aldous Huxley, very important. He is a grandson of T.H. Huxley, an eminent Victorian philosopher and a writer who championed the ideas of Charles Darwin. He was very fond of Charles Darwin और उसने Charles Darwin के आइडिया को आगे लेके गए. In the 1920s, Aldous Huxley published a number of novels which satirizes contemporary society. The novels do not always have Evelyn Waug's penetrating wit, comic anarchy, and invention, but among the most known of them are the chrome yellow, antique hay, which has many similarity with T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland, and Point Counterpoint. हक्सले की जो बेस्ट नॉवल थी, इट वॉज पब्लिश्ड इन 1932, जिसका नाम था ब्रेव न्यू वर्ल्ड. ये जो टाइटल था वो कहाँ से लिया गया था? शेक्सपियर के टेम्पेस्ट से लिया गया था. ओके, एंड ब्रेव न्यू वर्ल्ड इज ऑफन कंपेयर्ड विद जॉर्ज ऑरवेल्स डायस्टोपिया इन 1984. कापडी, ये जो मतलब है इसका मतलब है सीज द डे. ये Latin phrase है from one ode which has become the name for a very common literary motive, especially in the lyric poetry. The speaker in a Captain poem emphasizes that life is too short and time is fleeting in order to urge his auditor, who is often represented as a virgin reluctant to change her condition, to make the most of present pleasure. मतलब इसका मतलब है कि हमें लाइफ बहुत छोटी है और हमें इसको खुल के जीना चाहिए. Okay, the first heroic drama कौन सा है? It was written by William Davenant, a playwright, during the reign of Charles I. He wrote The Siege of Rhodes, and it is the first heroic drama. What is reconstruction? It is an approach to the understanding the relationship between text and meaning. It was originated by the philosopher Derrida, who defined the term variously throughout his career. मतलब इसकी एक particular definition नहीं है, इससे बहुत सारी definitions हैं. The concept was first outlined by Derrida in grammatology, where he explored the interplay between language and construction of meaning. In its simplest form, it can be regarded as criticism of Platonism, an idea of true form or essence which take precedence over appearances. Deconstruction instead places the emphasis on appearances, or suggests at least that essence is to be found in appearances. Derrida would say that the difference is undecidable in that it cannot be discerned in everyday experiences. We cannot define it in a single terminology. Orientalism क्या है? It is a discourse of West and East, a conflict between West and East, a huge body of text, literary, topographically, anthropology, historical, sociological, that has been accumulating since the Renaissance. Okay, it said concentrating his attention on writing about the Near East is concerned to show how this discourse is at once self-validating, constructing certain stereotype which became accepting as self-evident fact, and also in conscious or unconscious collusion with political and economic imperialism. राइट जो एडवर्ड सैयद हैं, उन्होंने अपनी जो बुक है ओरिएंटलिज्म में, उसमें इसने डिस्कस किया है इसके बारे में. राइट, एनालाइज्ड as corporate institution for dealing with the Orient, dealing with it by making statement about it, authorizing view of it, describing about it, teaching about it, setting about it, ruling over it. Right, in short, what is Orientalism? As a Western style for dominating, restructuring and having authority over the Orient. Beat generation क्या है? ये जो term था, ये किसने coin किया था? जैक ने coin किया था for the disaffected youth of America during the materialistic 1950s. Ugc developed ideas of automatism into what he called spontaneous prose to create a maximalist multi-novel epic called the WOLLSTONECRAFT'S Legend in the mold of Marcel Proust in Search of Lost Time. Now, Beat generation is often used more broadly to refer the several group of post-war American writers from the Black Mountain poets, the New York School, the San Francisco Renaissance, and so on. Now, she is a very important name in the criticism. Gayatri Spivak describes herself as a paradisciplinary ethical philosopher. Her reputation was first made for the translation and preface to Derrida's ऑफ ग्रामेटोलॉजी. अब ऑफ ग्रामेटोलॉजी कब लिखी गई थी ये भी देख लो, 1976 में. एंड शी हैज सिंस अप्लाइड रिकंस्ट्रक्टिव स्ट्रेटजीज टू वेरियस theoretical engagement and textual analysis, including feminism, Marxism, literary criticism, and post-colonialism. Now, we all have heard the very important line, all is in love and war. But do we know where has this line come from, proverb come from? It has been attributed to LYLY'S EUPHUES, The Anatomy of Wit, which was published in 1579. The novel recounts the romantic adventure of a wealthy and attractive young man and includes the quote, "The rules of fair play do not apply in love and war." ये जो नीचे दिया गया है, that is the Latin version of all is fair in love and war. Dryden. His masterpiece of its kind is Absalom and Achitophel, which is undoubtedly the most powerful political satire in our language. Taking the Bible story of David and Absalom, he used it to ridicule the Whig party. He was against Whig party, and also to revenge himself upon his enemy. Charles too appeared as a King David. अब ये जो important है ना, ये जो text, इसमें बहुत सारे जो real characters है उनको लिया गया है with change of name. So you need to know about that also. Charles II को King David बना के रखा गया था. His natural son, the Duke of Monmouth, was mixed up in the Rye House plot, paraded as Absalom. Shaftesbury was Achitophel, the evil counselor. ये इनके नाम थे जो इनको बनाया गया था. And the Duke of Buckingham was satirized as Zimri. The poem has had enormous political influence and raised Dryden, in the opinion of his contemporary, to the front rank of English poets. To extract from the powerful characterization of Achitophel and Zimri are given here to show the style and spirit of whole work. Paradise Lost, very important text. It is an epic poem which was written in 1658, completed in 1665, and published in 1667. It was first published in 10 books, and then another edition which came in 1674. It was in 12 books. It was written in blank verse and grand style. Milton justifies the way of God to men in Paradise Lost. The shadow of a gunman and the plugs and the stars were the last play of O.C.Z., written in Ireland. His 6-volume autobiography, published between 1939 to 1954, remains one of the most valuable period of Irish liberation. Now, Mansfield Park, again very important one. It is the third published novel by Jane Austen, and it was published by Thomas Egerton. Second one was published by John Murray in 1816. Last but not the least, we have heard the word base and superstructure. These words come in Marxism. It refers to the relationship between the economic and social cultural aspect of society, where economic base determines, influences, and forms the culture superstructure. I hope you like my video. If you like it, kindly comment so that I can post more of it. Otherwise, I won't be posting more of it. Thank you.